Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And for anybody out there that's listening or watching, you can go to www.mitchellgolf.com. And Mr. Mitchell is the go-to guy for frequency machines, for loft and line machines. He does his machines does irons, woods, putters. I have personally used his equipment since I started building clubs in the early '90s, and it's the Mercedes Benz of golf equipment. When you buy a Mitchell machine, if you take good care of it, it's going to pay for itself many times over again. There's a ton of tour players that own these machines. So I'll kind of let Mr. Mitchell elaborate a little bit on that, because at one point in time, pretty much every PGA Tour pro had one.
Well, yeah, I appreciate your kind words, Al.
Thank you, sir.
What we did, basically, when we developed our machine back in 1988,
Yes.
we changed the way the golf industry basically fit or sold golf clubs. Club fitting at that time was in its infancy, and the manufacturers were a little reluctant to have other people work on their golf clubs. But what our equipment allowed people like yourself and the do-it-yourselfers like the PGA Tour pros, we have, like you said, numbers of PGA Tour pros have their own shops that we've outfitted.
Yes,
and
sir.
they literally work on their own golf clubs. And what we were able to do with that was to change the way clubs were fitted at the point of sale, meaning that you didn't have to just have something fitted to you and ordered it. More importantly, when it came in or when you got your hands on it, you could readjust it to create the ball flight that you wanted. And that's really what's been the success of golf club sales for the last 25 years, is due to the fact that you can make adjustments after the fact.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mitchell, George Honeycutt, don't you find that when you deal with a retailer and buying new clubs or purchasing clubs, they are a point of sale animal to the point where when you leave and you buy those clubs off the rack, which we never recommend. I mean, we always recommend getting club fitted. But do you find that after every club that's out there, except for maybe some of the harder cast irons, but every club adjusts, it moves, it changes, and having, the loft and line capability through your Mitchell device, per se, it just makes sense for golfers out there to periodically check their lie angle, their lofts. It's just like changing grips, I saw a gentleman that came in the other day. He had grips he had not changed in 11 years.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
11 years.
Yep.
Not good.
Not good.
No. And he wondered why he couldn't keep the club in his hand.
Yep.
Right.
Amazing.
George, you're right about the angles moving. You see, what the industry brought on for the consumer back when all the club fitting carts were introduced was that once you went through the fitting process, you thought you had your DNA or your fingerprint established for golf clubs, and that was going to stay with you forever. Well, that's not true. What the fitting process is, it's an ever-changing, evolving method. I work on my golf clubs, my personal golf clubs, all the time. I mean, if I'm playing through a stretch of 2 or 3 weeks, and all of a sudden I got something that's not working properly, I'm tinkering with it. I'm making alterations to it. And by the way, this is the same thing the tour pros do. The tour pros have that luxury of the tour vans, and as a result, if they've got something that's not quite fine-tuned for them, they'll make a slight adjustment and go out, find the groove for it in their golf swing, and go out and shoot, 6 under par. The average golfer doesn't have that luxury. But at the same time, through use, through hitting balls, through playing rounds of golf, they should have their loft and lies checked periodically because they will change.
Definitely. And I find, the forged clubs are a little softer. And if you take somebody that's a little more aggressive, there'll be a little bit more movement in the forged than the cast, from what I found at the shop.
Well, that's true. But let me tell you what I think's been missing in club fitting.
Yes,
and
sir.
I can appreciate this. People go through the process, they get fit, and if it's your typical club fitting cart method by the manufacturers, what happens is those golf clubs are manufactured, made for them at a remote location somewhere, and they're shipped in, and the retailer or the golf professional hands the golfer the box of golf clubs, and here you are. They're done. They wash their hands of it.
Right.
Well, if the tour pros were treated like that, guess what? There'd be a revolt out on tour, because what the pros do is they get their golf clubs made for them, and then while they're out on the practice tee hitting balls, they've got a representative working with them, and then they go into the van, they make some alterations, they come back, they continue to hit balls. That same process could be offered to the amateur golfer if they would work with a club fitter like Al. They would get that kind of service
that's right.
ongoing. So that, what I call the last 25% of the club fitting method, is missing most of the time.
Yes,
and that's
sir.
the follow-up after the clubs have arrived.
Yes, sir.
I absolutely.
Yep.
I mean, that leads back to my original comments. That
Yes, sir.
What happens when you buy, and if you were to be uneducated enough to buy a set off the rack, but even after a club fitting, it's that point of sale process.
Oh, no doubt.
You know,
I mean, I hate to say it. I deal with, a few big manufacturers, and I've ordered irons in, at like, say, 2 degrees upright. We get them in, and I have found cases when they actually come in standard. The paperwork's marked as 2 degrees, but they grab the wrong heads off the shelf. And this is from a big manufacturer. So, I think it's it's loving the golf clubs, and it's learning, every single day, a little bit more about them, and it's just, there's so much more that can be done when you have love put into a golf club than just an assembly line golf club.
Mr. Mitchell, do me a favor for our viewers and listeners here with Tech Talk with Al Cloyd, and today's loft and lies are much stronger than they were, say, in the 90s, several years ago just. Talk a little bit about that. And, I mean, it's basically to sell clubs. That's why it's there.
Yes, sir.
Is that right?
Is that Mr. Mitchell? Yes, sir. Mr. Mitchell.
Well, yeah, George, that is correct. What has happened is the golf clubs have gotten longer and the lofts have gotten stronger. So today's 5-iron is 25 years ago the 3-iron. And as a result, now we have to have hybrids. As a result, we have to have 4 wedges. All this has done is just change the makeup of the golf club set. So if you've got to hit something 150 yards, doesn't matter what the number is, hit the club that hits at 150 yards. If it's 200 yards, hit it 200 yards.
Great point.
But that's why today, when I was down to Augusta National last year at the Masters, and we were working with Jason Day, we were adjusting his club so that he could actually hit his pitching wedge 150 yards. And his 6-iron, he was getting 215 yards out of it. Now, that's unheard of. In my day, years and years ago, of playing a lot of golf, a 215-yard shot was a 1-iron.
Yes, sir.
Here he is hitting a 6-iron.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Right. But in actuality, if we sat and looked at his shaft length, his lie, what those lofts were on those clubs, he's probably a 6-iron is probably close to a 4, if not a 3, from years gone back.
Yeah, it's
close.
amazing.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And the thing that people need to realize is that lie angle influences trajectory of the ball, which obviously equals distance. And so in Jason's case, his caddy there, Colin, had his wedge upright to the point where he thought he needed it more upright in order to hit it further. And I told him that was the opposite. What we ended up doing was flattening out the lie angle so that Jason was able to release it without holding on to it. We changed the trajectory, and therefore he picked up 8 yards on his pitching wedge so that he could play Augusta and get the yardage number that he needed for a full pitching wedge swing.
Yep. And originally, back years ago at the Masters, let's see, if you don't mind, would you explain your history with the golf club there, please?
Well, the Augusta National bought some of my equipment years ago, and that's been a little over 20 years ago. And of course, at that time, they had no service offered to the pros on site for taking care of their golf clubs. And so the golf professional at that time invited me to come down and be there to help out if anybody needed any service. And that started back in the early 1990s.
Okay,
and
yes, sir.
And so since then, we used to have a tour van that we followed a tour before all the OEMs had theirs. And so we had our van there, and then we had a mobile office area where we set up a repair shop for the week and stayed there the whole week. Now, once they built their new practice area and their new caddy house, we have a full-service club repair shop that they use year-round, that they're open. And we were there for the whole week of the tournament and on-site to take care of any of the needs that the pros might have. Now, the tour vans are still in town. They have been coming to town for about 10 years, but they're not on property.
Right.
So we do a little bit of work for a lot of the guys, and the main thing is after the tour vans have left, if somebody was to break a shaft, like it's been known to happen,
Right.
We're there to replace that shaft on Thursday night, so they've got it ready Friday morning to tee off.
Man, that's awesome. I mean, that's got to be just
Some
a
stories he's
super
probably
feather
got.
in the cap. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
no
We
doubt.
have a lot of fun there, and we're happy to be there and helping the pros, and we've got a lot of stories we could tell too.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Mr. Mitchell, if you don't mind, quickly kind of step us through your catalog. What does Mitchell Golf provide as far as equipment, merchandise, stuff like that?
Well, we pretty much service the trade side of golf, in that it's either the retailers, the golf professionals, the club manufacturers, retail shops or club fitting shops, like Al has, and as well as some do-it-yourselfers. So what we manufacture and what we've developed and designed, our own patented designs over the year, are all the tools that one would pretty much need to do what I call the three modern golf club requirements, and that is regripping, reshafting, and loft lie adjustment. Now, included in the reshafting, of course, is club assembly. So if there's anything you need to do to a golf club, we have the tools that would allow you to do that job. Keep in mind that we don't have string whipped on wood heads anymore. We don't have
Right.
back pins. And so golf clubs are relatively easy to assemble and to repair.
Yes, sir. And I tell you, with your equipment, I mean, the loft and line machine is scary accurate. It's dead on. You won't find one that's a degree out. And the beauty of that is I think with Mr. Mitchell, was he took the loft and line machine and made his machine become kind of industry standard. So the cool thing was if you went, to one shop that had a Mitchell machine, and let's say you're out of town playing in a tournament somewhere, and you go to another shop that has a Mitchell machine, you're going to get the same measurements, from both locations.
Right.
And that kind of quality, only comes from somebody, who really loves what they do, enough to put their name on the product and stand behind it. And that's what you do.
Well, thank you. And what we did was the prior machines before our introduction in 1988 did not adjust for where the hosel offset or progressive offset or relationship to the face. And so therefore, the machines prior to that era were inaccurate, number one. Yep. Number two, they wouldn't clamp and securely hold a cast club, which was prominent during that era.
Right.
So we used to have the old comments, well, you can't bend a ping, or you can't bend a
Right.
17-4 stainless steel, or you can't bend a metal wood. Well, we solved all those problems, and that's what made our machine if you will, the benchmark that it is for the industry. And plus the fact that the tour vans gravitated to it, and we've been number one in tour vans for 27 years.
Fantastic. Al, I hate to cut this off. Let's see if we can get Mr. Mitchell back.
Yeah,
there's several more things.
There's so much more. I mean, he's just a wealth of knowledge, and I think this will be a multiple show deal, because I think I love to hear him speak, and we're just going to learn. All we have to do just listen.
Yeah.
Just listen, because he's got a lot of knowledge, and I'd love to share it with our viewers and our listeners.
Well, Mr.
And I
Mitchell,
look
if you
up
can
to
find
him.
the time in the future, we'd love to continue our discussions here about Mitchell Golf. Again, www.mitchell, MITCHELL, golf.com, and you can go direct to there. They have a new 2015 interactive PDF catalog, so you can actually download the PDF catalog and just find anything and everything you want.
Yes, sir. Yes,
So,
sir. I mean, just a super company. I mean, I highly recommend anybody out there, if you're thinking about any type of equipment, don't think twice. Go to Mr. Mitchell.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, guys. I certainly appreciate it, and I'm available anytime. Just give me a call.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. TGD Radio and TV are produced and broadcast by the Zeus Radio Network for thegolfdirector.com. When visiting the Golf Director, be sure to check out our featured course pages where you'll find up-to-date information about course conditions, specials, and much more. Hey, need help with any golfing vacation? Just call Dave. You can give us a call right here at thegolfdirector.com at 844-GO-GOLF-1, 844-464-6531. All of our programming is archived and for listening and viewing on demand. Did you know that?
Yes, sir.
Click on the TGD Radio or the TGD TV tabs in the menu screen at thegolfdirector.com. We are now available on over 1 billion with a B devices at iTunes, Audio Realm, TuneIn, YouTube, Ustream, Roku, Periscope, Catch.me, Blueberry, and, of course, Myrtle Beach Golf app. I'm George Honeycutt, and for Mr. Al Cloyd, this has been Tech Talk with Al Cloyd, and we want to thank Mr. Ed Mitchell, and we want to thank Jeff behind the glass, but most importantly, we want to thank you all for joining in and continuing another day with us at TGD today, and we want you to stick around because there's a lot more golf news and information coming up next.